Welcome to the Hunter Report, and I am here with comedian Jamie Roberts. You would know Jamie from MTV, Comedy Central, nothing serious, not a big deal. Jay-Z's title network. We're going to compare the Sony G Master 24-70 f2.8 versus the Fujifilm right here, 16-55.
There's a mortgage payment in your hand, right? If you don't know.
Yeah, not really. But
rent? In the story of Queens?
Yeah, rent. It's rent. There's a rent price right here. Hardware is heavy, too. Feel how heavy this is.
Oh, yeah. That's ridiculous.
Got some weight.
That's ridiculous. You got it? I don't want to drop it. If you break it, you purchase it. That's the rule.
Absolutely correct. Keep coming. How's it feel?
Feels good.
Well, been making it look too good, what?
Ah, it looks good, man. Camera's dope.
Is the security guy looking at it like that? No. First and foremost, why did I pit an APS-C lens against a full-frame lens? Quite frankly, these are the options that I had. Maybe a better test would have been the Sigma f2.8 for Canon and the APS-C size, or the Sony 16-70 Zeiss. That said, these lenses have very similar angles of view. So in that sense, there is a similarity between these two. There is a trend of photographers or videographers favoring lighter systems, and an APS-C system is a good trade-off between lightness and not losing too much light. First, let's talk price. The Sony G Master retails for $21.98 and the Fujifilm retails for $11.99. Basically half the price. The Fuji weighs in at about 1.5 pounds and the Sony weighs in at about 2 pounds, and it does make a difference. I have no problem shooting a 1 pound zoom lens for an entire wedding for 8 hours, but I'm just not gonna wanna do that with the Sony G Master, and the Fujifilm is something in between. Neither of these lenses provide optical image stabilization. However, most Sony bodies do provide in-body image stabilization, whereas Fuji does not. Now, Fuji does make a 16-55 f2.8-4 that has image stabilization, but it's not a solid f2.8 all the way through. Oh yeah, and the Fuji does macro, whereas the Sony does not. All right, let's get back out into the field and really see how these lenses compare. Alright, first picture. Believe it or not, these are at the same color temperature, and I'm sorry that the angle was not the exact same. I need to work on that consistency-wise. This file's at 3600, and this file's at 3600. So first off, we're going to notice some grain right here on the Fuji and no grain here, and that's basically because you're shooting on a full-frame camera with the Sony. Now, the first thing that really strikes me is if you look right here versus right here on the Sony here, the background bokeh just looks blurrier. I mean, you look at the definition right here of these railings, and the Sony just gets bokefied, you know, more quickly. We're as wide as we can. We're at 16 millimeters on the Fuji. We're at 24 on the Sony. Very similar sharpness in the center. Although here's a very interesting thing. Look at these floor tiles. You could see here on the Sony, like, the grout, you know, is dark. Whereas here on the Fuji, there's just like no definition in the grout. I found that very interesting. You know, here are these 4 tiles here in the floor pattern. These four tiles here lack that color contrast. I found that very interesting. Now, I don't know if this is due to the sensor or the lens. Another experiment is necessary. So definitely subscribe and give me thumbs up so I can continue getting the kind of gear that I really need to do these things justice. Reasonable sharpness here, you know, near the center point of the lens. And that's about it. Both beautiful shots. Both do the scene justice, but there are some differences. Moving on. Alright, here we are full out. We're at 55 on the Fuji. We're at 70 millimeters on the Sony. Again, the quality of the bokeh here on the Sony, you just see it's like softer. There's just more definition here on the Fuji, and it's just softer here on the Sony. Let's go and take a look at details. Just a similar sharpness You know, you could see nice details in his mustache there, and similar details there. Let's look at the zipper. Yeah, there's a similar sharpness all the way out. Biggest difference in this scene is just the quality of the bokeh right back here, and the light bokeh just looks a little different here. All right, here we are with a pure bokeh test. Same light, although it was moving by the wind. It does seem like the bokeh is just slightly softer on the Fuji. Is it any huge difference? No, and it's really as to what you like. Take a look at all of these images and make a judgment upon the entire set instead of just this one image. Now here's something I found that was very, very interesting. Here we are with the Fuji at f2.8, and look at that. You get a beautiful lens star at f2.8. Here are the Sony at f2.8. There's no lens star at all. Now, I've never seen this in a lens before. I've shot the Sony G Master. This to me was just very interesting how you're getting lens stars at f2.8. So Fuji definitely has some secret sauce in their lens formulas, and Sony could improve upon that. And you get to f8, the lens star is even more pronounced on the Fuji, and slowly in Sony the lens begins to star, and it really hits its peak around f11, f13. Fuji wins hands down in the starring game. Alright, so here we are, 24 f11 here, 16 f10 on the Fuji, so that means they're both zoomed all the way out. Sharpness looking very similar. Let's take a look at the background here. You know, just more blurriness slightly on the Sony in the bokeh-fied background. But the conclusion that I'm going to draw is that both of these lenses are absolutely excellent. And what it really comes down to, since both of these lenses really very similar, it comes down to everything else surrounding these lenses. Namely, do you like the Fuji system? Do you have to have a full frame camera? What about the price difference? The weight difference? Do you need optical steady shot? Well then it's Sony all day. Do you need macro? These are the things that you should be weighing when making a selection. Remember, when you buy into a system, you're pretty much locked in. The bodies will change. Over the years you will get new bodies, but those lenses, as long as you're buying top of the line glass, and this is the top of the line glass from both Sony and Fuji, these lenses will stay with you for years, maybe even decades. You're really gonna do well shooting with either of these lenses. So that's about it. Do your research. I hope this was helpful. Check the description below if you want to get either of these products. This is the Hunter Report. Please subscribe. Please give me a thumbs up. And I'll see you soon.